Hello everyone, and welcome to my first Dual Universe tutorial. I will be speaking about how to create a basic, efficient industry setup. There's a couple things you need to know beforehand. First of all, to be able to craft any of these items or these industry machines, you're going to need a assembly or assembler size M. I personally find having two of them to be most efficient, and I won't cover how to build up to that point, but here's a small tip to get you started. Make sure this is unchecked like this, and you can find anything in here and see where it's crafted in. It'll tell you here, just like any other industry machine I've made or you make. Now, for some of you experienced players, you're probably going to notice there's a few things missing here. Well, we're a week into beta, and I'm a solo player, so I don't quite have the 3D printers, chemical refineries, whatever yet. I found that these things were the most important things to get started to get to that point. So first of all, I would advise getting a big storage unit for your refining stations. One for the ores, and one for the output of the ores. Now we're going to link these to the refineries. When you click on the container first and then the industry item, that's your input container. Now I'm going to define their output containers by clicking on the refinery first and clicking on the container second. Cool, we got that going. This is a Honeycomb Refinery, not really needed. I accidentally bought it, but I didn't want to sell it for pennies, so I kept it, and it's been kind of useful, but not as useful as these things. Okay, next we've got smelters here. These are what convert your, purified ores into alpha alloy, steel, silicon. I recommend having these, maintain, just so you don't have to worry about that, and you've always got that in stock here. So I'm going to link my container of purified ores to those, and I'm going to put their outputs to this container here. Okay, next, I think this is a really cool, important step. It took me a while to figure out how to do this because I noticed that when crafting things in the metalworks, this is a metalwork industry, by the way, and this is a electronics industry, and these are smelters. Not sure if I said that already. Okay, back to what I was saying. I noticed that items you created in metalwork industry as well as the electronics industry, you need for other items you create in the metalwork industry or electronics industry. So basically what I'm saying is these would pull stuff from here, but they put it in an output container. But then these machines would need stuff in this output container. And you cannot define an input container that is already an output container. So let me show you an example. So I'm going to define this input to the electronics, and I'm going to define this as its output container. Now you can have multiple input containers, like I said, but not use the same output as an input. So here, I'm going to define this back to here, and it's not going to let me. Let's see here, just for an example. We'll do another input container. And by the way, to delete a connection, you hold Alt and you click, And Alt-click is basically the opposite of every action you can think of with that same tool you did, by the way. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this real quick and start over. So I'm going to link these. And I'm also going to link these. All inputs to these 7 units here. Okay, now let's define their output containers. So these ones I'm going to put here, and you'll see why in a little while. And these output containers I will put here. Now for these, for this side of the crafting industry, I'm also going to define this as an input container. I already did that. Okay. My apologies. I'm also going to define this as an input container for these 3 units. So there's inputs running from this container to these 3 and this container to these 3. But this is only in an output for these 4, and you'll see why in just a moment. And for the assemblers, I'm going to go ahead and define these as inputs, as well as this for inputs. And just in case, let's go ahead and do that. You never know. I don't think elements need, or commonly need, silicon alpha alloy or silicon, but just in case, you know, we can have multiple input containers. Doesn't matter. Okay, so let me show you why you want 2 sides of industry crafting. So let's say I want to make some basic power systems, but I don't want to keep taking items from this and putting it back in here, which is why we set them up the way we did. So basic power system requires alpha alloy and basic connectors. Well, electronics industry makes basic connectors. So let's go ahead and define those, or start that crafting process in here. Basic connector. Now let's just maintain 250. Maintaining 250, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it'll make sure that there's always whatever you define here in the output container, and it will stop once it's made all of those. And there's actually 258 in my output container already. Just for the sake of the video, let's bump it up to 500 so we can see some get made. All right, got those making. Here's the 250 here, and on this side, let's go ahead and start the basic power systems. Now I think we need more input containers, don't we? Oh, no we don't. Okay. So yeah, this electronics industry is pulling basic connectors from this container, and it is pulling alpha alloy from this container. Both 2 items needed to make these basic power systems. So basically this is going to prevent you from having to go back and forth putting basic connectors from this container, or I'm sorry, this container back into this container. Had we done it the simple way, it had all the metal crafting and all the electronics pulling from one and putting out into one. And same goes for metal craft industry, metalworks. Sorry. So for an example, basic hydraulics. It needs basic pipes and it needs steel. Basic pipes are made in metalworks industry. Steel is made, or I'm sorry, steel is also required. So we'll have, you know, this metal craft industry making basic pipes. And this is just one example. Screws is a good idea to have, make it back here, always maintaining 250. Hydraulics, oh okay, pipe, basic pipe. Apply, and maintaining 250, that's a pretty good number as well. There's already some in here, so I'll go ahead and start the crafting process for basic hydraulics. And basic hydraulics are used in a few industry items as well, and I'm sure a bunch more items. So now it's pulling steel from this container, and it's pulling basic pipes from this container. Once you get more advanced, you'll want to have an assembly line large, and you know, transfer units are pretty useful. You'll find your own use for them. They can only do one thing at a time, so honestly they're kind of dumb in my opinion, but I think that about covers the basic efficient industry. You know, with the items created, I'm used to having this, you know, let's say we want to make a refiner. You know, we'll have basic pipes, basic power systems, chemical contain. So items like this, basic reinforced frame or basic chemical container, or if we pull up smelter, basic burner, you know, those types of items, you know, basic reinforced frame, chemical containers, basic burners, you should save those to be made on this side of the equation and keep these free up for those kinds of items, basic power systems. I can't quite think of things at the top of my head made by a electronics industry, since I am pretty not too far into the game right now. That would be made on this side of the equation, but I'm sure you'll find it handy, this setup, and you will create more for each side. You know, more electronics, more metal, more electronics, more metal. 3D printers probably go on this side. You know, chemical industries this side. But yeah, I think that about covers it. My in-game name is Hoonstad. Feel free to message me on Discord. You know, the in-game chats fly by pretty fast, but I'm always willing to help. I want to see this game flourish, and I want to see everybody have fun like I'm having fun.